Hey, business building warrior, got a great treat for you today. It's another great interview with a student from our community. Now, Amar is a young man. He's only been in our community a couple months, but he's already having amazing results because he took action. He jumped in with both feet, listened to his coaches, paid attention to the lessons that we're showing him. He jumped into the Proven Amazon course, and he's already had a couple $1,000+ sales days at tremendous margins. And get this is the part that I want you to pay attention to before we jump over and meet Amar, because this is significant. He hopped onto some listings on Amazon that had, in one case, over 200 other sellers. He was the highest priced seller among those 200 sellers. And he sold 2,400 units of a product. Now, if you don't understand how that's possible, you're about to find out, because that's what we're going to dive into in today's episode. I'm going to stick a link in the show notes for this episode to where I actually give you 200 examples of where we are in my own business, the highest price seller or nearly the highest price seller on fast moving products, and we're making tons of sales. How is that possible? It's because you have to think of Amazon through the lens that we're going to show you today. I don't want to jump too far ahead. I don't want to dump a bunch of stuff on you, but you don't have to be the best price to win sales on Amazon. Stop thinking through that lens for just a moment. Listen to Amar's story. See if this resonates with you. This is going to be a life-changing episode for a lot of people, because Amar is very plain spoken. He's only a couple months in. He has no reason to make anything up, and he's doing tremendous. He's also using software that we call around here the system. You may have heard us talk a lot about that. If you're new around here, you can go check out what I'm talking about at silentjimdotcom/the system. My good friend Kang has built some software that completely created a workflow from start to finish to help you manage a replen's business the way we teach it in the Proven Amazon course. He actually has a $3 million business with just a couple people running it, a couple virtual assistants, a couple people in his warehouse. Huge business. Software does all the heavy lifting. That's now being used by several hundred students in our community, and it will be available to everyone soon. Today's guest, Amar, is one of the users of that software. We talk about that a little bit as well. But the thing I want you to pay attention today to, if you're skeptical about Amazon selling, is how easily it was for Amar to source the inventory that he gets. It's from Target, popular retail store that anyone can access and walk into. How many units he sold and how fast he sold them. But more importantly, he was the highest priced seller among over 200 sellers on the products that he sold. And here's the good news, those kinds of ASINs, those kinds of listings are everywhere. Once you understand how to see Amazon through the lens we want you to see it through today. So he's a great young man with a great future. It was truly a pleasure hanging out with him today. One last thing that we talked about today, we mentioned it in the episode as well, but I want to get it to you. It was very meaningful and helpful to Amar. So I want to give it to you as well. We gave it to him free. Go to silentjim.com/free11. That gets you the latest copy of the book that built this podcast, our Facebook group that now has about 77,000 members in it. The Proven Amazon course was birthed out of that book. I've updated it 11 times. I'd love to have you get a free copy of it and go through a few lessons. There's 10 lessons that I think best equip you to avoid making any really stupid mistakes with your e-commerce adventure and give you a good push in the right direction towards building a beautiful business. It's the book that Amar started with in our community. And if you want to listen to me go through those chapters, I'd love to deliver them to you completely free. Go to silentjim.com/free11. All the resources we're going to mention in today's episode will be in the show notes near this audio or video. Thanks for hanging out with us today. You're going to love getting to know Amar. Let's go hang out with him for a few minutes. All right, Amar, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. Good to see you, man.
You too.
I'm excited to have you here. And you got to this point pretty fast, I got to say, man. As I'm looking at your story, I'm really excited to dive in. How about we get it rolling? You ready?
Yeah.
Let's go,
I'm
man.
excited to be on here. So for me, I've wanted to sell online since 2021, I think. So obviously when everyone's in high school, they're thinking about, well, what do I want to do for a living? And you see a bunch of videos online about drop shipping and making millions of dollars online.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated high school and I knew that it was like a lot of it was like a get rich quick scheme.
There's a lot of that out there.
Yeah. So I reached out to a couple of people online, and for me, I don't ever like to do anything just on my own. I like to look for mentors and coaches on how to do stuff. So I
Wise.
looked online and reached out to a couple of people for Amazon, and they're like, "Well, we'll build out a done for you store for 20K or 30K, blah blah blah." And I was like,
Oh,
"I'm a high school kid. I don't have that much money."
and if you did have that much money, wow, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you this, Amar, and this is not just for you, this is for other people, and you know this by now, probably,
Hmm.
but other listeners today. I'm aware of zero success stories that have ever emerged from the litany of do it for you services out there, selling people all day, every day at that $20,000 to $40,000 price range. None of them have a success story to share, not a single one. It's a disaster. Yeah. So
Yeah.
glad you didn't go borrow money from somewhere and try
Yeah.
to pull that
That
off, man.
that would have been bad.
It
Yeah.
would have been a
But anyways,
disaster.
and then I reached out to a couple of coaches, and they were wanting to charge thousands of dollars, and I was just like, well, whatever. So I moved on from that. Didn't look at it again for a couple of years. Invested into a sales training program. So I'm a sales manager for my full time job, and so I invested into training for that. Got placed into a company, so I've been there for about 3 years. I started my own business on the side and got that up and going. That's self sustainable. And then about a couple months ago, I realized that I was like, well, my job's going pretty smooth. My side business is going pretty smooth. I have a couple extra hours a day that I could probably invest into something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, let me look into a few options. So I think like 2 years ago, I used to sell on Etsy. I used to
Okay.
drop ship t-shirts with some guy that I found through my work in California. I did that. I'd probably make like maybe 100, $200 a month off of that, but it wasn't anything serious.
Sure.
So I reached out to my girlfriend's dad, Josh Brown. You know him, right?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, a client of mine at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm helping them with some projects for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
go to the same church. Another big homeschool family. Like we all know each other,
Yeah.
man.
Their family is great.
Yeah.
But so I knew Josh, he does Amazon. Like they do Amazon, that's their business. And I was like, hey Josh, I sent him a text. I was like, I have a couple hours a day that I could probably use better than just hanging out around my house or with other people. I was like, I need to use this time more wisely. And I was like, I want to learn how to sell on Amazon. And he was like, he texted me back. He's like, I'm super glad you text me about that. I have amazing connections for that. Why don't you just come over later and we'll talk about it? So I went to his house. He told me first, he was like, read the book 4 Hour Work Week. So I bought that. I read it. And then he was like, sign up for this audiobook. It's a free link. Go through the 10 videos, which was your audiobook. I
Mhm.
went through that, and I thought it was amazing. There's so many, like obviously Amazon, you teach some stuff about why just selling on Amazon is good, but just like the concepts and the things you were saying around building a business, they resonated with me a lot.
Beautiful.
Uh,
I didn't
Yeah.
realize you'd done that, man. Maybe you mentioned it at some point because we have talked previous.
Yeah.
But don't forget where you're at in the story, but let me give a timeout because some people will go, what free? What book? Yeah. Okay. Go to silentjimdotcom/free11, FREE 11, the number 11, as in version 11, and get that book for free. You can download it, text us, we'll send it to you, email, whatever. But right now it's free. It's been out for over a year at this point, but it's still the latest version that's fully updated. And that's the book that you're talking about right now, Amar, that you went
Yeah.
through. That's great, man. So you actually went through it. So you know me
Yeah.
better than I thought you might at this point because I put my heart
Yeah.
into that thing.
Yeah. It was good. It was really good. So I went through that, and I'm a strong Christian. We converted over to Christianity when I was 8 or 9 years old. And like before, whenever I was looking for Amazon courses, it was just these super salesy tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And on the audiobook, there wasn't much pressure. And I saw like the genuine love that you had for the Lord, and you were making a lot of references according to the word. And I was like, this guy's legit. And so I contacted your sales team, asking about the proven Amazon course. And I was expecting it to be really expensive because that's all I saw before. But then I reached out and they're like, well, the course is only $40 a month. What what the heck is only 40 a month?
Yeah.
So I signed up for the course, and then I forgot who I spoke with, but she was supposed to send it to my email. It didn't come through the first time. So I called the office again, and I ended up speaking with Nathan. And Nathan was like, what are you looking for? And I just thought he was like the receptionist or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I told him, I was like, I'm really looking to learn how to sell on Amazon. I'm super serious about it. He was like, well, if you're super serious about it, then you should look into coaching. That's for people that are looking to ramp up pretty quickly. And he was like, based on because we spoke for, I think, 45 minutes
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, based on what you told me, I think you'd be a great candidate for coaching. So let's schedule a call. I'll have Jim call you. So we spoke, I got signed up, and that was, I think, 2.5 months ago. And I was traveling a lot around that time. So I really actually started selling on Amazon about a month and a half ago, but that's how I found your guys' community.
Wow. So you're a coaching student. I apologize.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that. Okay. It's just big enough of an organization that people I really should know. Sometimes I forget. And there's another Jim on our team too. So that's who you talked to when you signed up, right? But I'm loving this so far, man. And to be called legit by a guy who's just a couple of years out of high school is pretty cool, dude. So
Yeah.
thanks for that, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
that. But yeah, all right. So let's keep it rolling, man. You jumped in with both feet, and I remember a short conversation we had shortly after you talked to
Yeah.
Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And I get approached all the time by people who say, "Hey, I heard you guys teach people how to sell online. People at church, in the community, playing basketball somewhere, and like, hey, I heard your podcast. I want to learn how to do this Amazon thing." And I've kind of learned that, there's people who talk, and then there's people who do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fine talking to people about it. But I pretty quickly put people into the category of like, yeah, they're just going to talk about it. Or
Mm-hmm.
I think that person's going to do something. And I could tell you had ambition, but I also knew you had a full schedule. So I wasn't sure where you'd land. So when I
Mm-hmm.
started seeing your name and face and results popping up, I got pretty excited, man. You're doing great. But keep the story going. I don't want to steal anything, but you continue to impress, man. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, thanks. Well, and a lot of it is I told my coaches I'd shut them out. So Travis and Travis here is Grant Douglas. Those are my coaches. Shout out you guys. They're
Travis is another
amazing.
guy from church. Grant's a guy in full-time ministry.
Yeah,
We got
it's funny because Travis lives like 2 minutes down the road from me.
really,
Yeah,
yeah, because
he lives
I
right
see him
next
at
to my
church.
house.
I
Yeah,
see him at church all the time. Actually, when he was injured there for about a year, we helped kind of carry his
really.
business for him here and there. He got hurt at the food pantry where the guy that helps run my Amazon business and Travis work together all the time at a food pantry, volunteer at our church.
Mm-hmm.
And Travis got pretty seriously injured there. He's back now, but there for a year or so he was down. And yeah, small world, man. It's just friends helping friends, building businesses together. But yeah, you
Yeah,
got a couple good coaches for sure.
yeah.
Love both those guys.
Yeah. And I had no idea that you went to Grace because I went there a couple of times for their young adult stuff.
Okay.
And then, Travis was like, yeah, we all go to young adults. But when I had my onboarding calls, they assigned me Travis. And Travis was like, where are you from? I was like, I'm from Indianapolis. He's like, oh, no way. What part of Indianapolis? And he was probably expecting me to say somewhere far away. I was like, I'm in like the Southport area. He was like, wait, what
We're
part of the
neighbors.
Southport area?
I
I was
wonder if
like,
they did that on purpose. I don't know. I doubt they did. They probably had no idea.
yeah. But I was like, I'm on 5 Points in Shelbyville. And he was like, wait, I'm from 5 Points in Shelbyville. And he was like, you know that Walgreens right there? I was like, yeah. He's like, that Walgreens, the light of it flashes at my house at night. I was like, dude, you're right next to me.
That's crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So that
you
was
guys are
really
true
funny.
neighbors, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Small world. I mean, we got students all over the world. We have 60 coaches on our team,
Uh-huh.
and we've got students in, I don't know, a few dozen countries, and spread out all over the planet, our team and our students. But here you guys are like, hey, neighbor. That's my
Yeah.
coach. I love it.
Yeah. So I went through coaching with him for a couple of weeks. I think like the first time we had met like 2 times, I took really good notes on what he said. And I was just like, well, this is just information. Now I have to take action on it. And I was like, well, I know it's a proven concept because I've watched a lot of the testimonials and the podcast episodes. And I was like, a good way I like to think is if other people can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because if they can do it, why can't I do it? So I was just like, my coach told me to do this. I'm going to do that. And so I worked, and then I'd spend like 4 hours a day sourcing after work. I've slowed down now because I have like work has been busy for me, but I continually source for like 4 hours a day for like 2 weeks straight. I think I had tested like 15 or 20 products. I think three or four of them sold really quickly. And I just continued to replenish those. And then back to school started happening. So I was like, well, back to school, crayons. So I bought 2,500 boxes of crayons, and I sold them as 4 packs. And this is my office. My whole office had crayons everywhere.
That's
And to
great.
pack them all by myself would have taken me forever, but I had my
Yeah.
whole family. So me, my mom, my dad, my two sisters. It was like a FedEx factory in here. We were packing them all, shipping them out back to school. I sent in a bunch of crayons, and that was when I had my first 1K day. So I've had two $1,000 days so far, and that was when my crayons checked in. So as soon as they checked in, they all sold out that same day.
Okay, let's get a timeline here. When was your first sale, best you recall?
My first sale was probably the first week of July.
First week of July. Here we are, middle of August.
Yeah. I think I'm at 14,000 in sales total so far.
We're not even 2 months in.
2 months will be on the 1st
of September. And which is still a ways out. Yeah. And you're having $1,000 days. Yeah. And you're taking action. You're following the plan. This is incredible, man. I love it. Well done, dude. You're going to inspire a lot of folks. You really are. So I want to hear the process of, I think sure people are, some people, especially if they're new to our podcast, are thinking, well, they're going to keep the secrets for themselves. No, like, let's share. Like, what are you doing? What's the process, man? Talk me through.
I just used, so obviously like the Keepa. Travis told me a couple different sourcing methods. My favorite one was store stocking.
Yep. Easily done.
So first what I did is I would look at other sellers that are selling the same masons that I was. And I would just go through those one by one, look at the Keepa chart, see if I could find a source, see if it's profitable. If it is, I'll put in a test order. And one thing that I was struggling with a lot in the beginning was being gated.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the products I was looking at, I was gated in, but I was just like, well, this will take forever if I only source the things that I'm already ungated in. So I was just like, well, I'll buy 10 of them. I'll see if I can get an invoice. And if I do, I'll get ungated. If I don't, I'll just return it. And so what I would do is I'd call the companies and say, hey, can I get an invoice for this order? Before, if they said yes, I'd place the order, get the invoice, submit it. I'd get approved, and I just did that over and over again. So instead of just going for the stuff that I was ungated in already, I was like, well, this looks like a really good chart. I already see there's a bunch of sellers on here. They obviously got ungated somehow. So let me just go ahead and go for everything that I think is profitable. Done. Yeah. And it was a little bit risky because there were sometimes where I had to return stuff because the invoice wouldn't get approved. Yeah. But I think I had like an 8 or 9 out of 10 hit rate. Every time I'd order it, I'd get the invoice, I'd submit it, Amazon would ungate me.
I love how matter of fact you are about it. Because, we deal with a lot of people who get really frustrated and off into the weeds over these relatively minor things. And these are one-time experiences. Ungating is going to be an issue. And I love how you said, you've only been doing this less than 2 months and you're talking about like, when I first got started, like that was a few weeks ago, man. But
back in the day when I first
back when you were young, right? but I talk to people all the time and like it takes them a year to get to where you are. Because they just drag their feet and they get off into the mud and they go watch a YouTube video and like, I don't want to go through the course. I'm just going to go scan some barcodes in the clearance aisle at Walmart instead. But if you stick to what we're trying to show you, you really can do some pretty significant things very quickly. And that's exactly what you've done. So well done. And on the ungating, typically what we coach is, hey, just sell the stuff you're allowed to sell. And those gates will start falling open eventually. And if that's not good enough and you want to take the route like you did, Amar, and you just say, hey, you know what? It looks like a great ASIN. I'm going to try to get ungated. I'm going to do what it takes, figure it out. Now, we don't typically encourage just to return a bunch of stuff if it doesn't work out, just as a courtesy to other sellers, don't do that at scale. I'll just say that. Doing it a few times here and there, no big deal, getting your feet wet. But well done, man. Again, take aggressive action. And some people get confused. So let me just clarify a little bit on what the ungating thing is, Amar, then we'll get back into your story. As a new seller, you're going to run into a lot of great looking products and ASINs and good looking Keepa charts. If you don't know what Keepa is, go listen to episode 369 of our podcast. But you find these great potential products like, I'm not authorized to sell these. Amazon has me gated, the door's shut. So Amazon will say, hey, if you buy 10 units from an authorized source and send us an invoice, you might get ungated for this product. Well, we teach people typically we teach them stay away from that because it can be kind of frustrating to get rejected, order 10, what I'm going to do with these units. Instead, just sell what you're allowed to sell and avoid the problem. It'll solve itself eventually. But that wasn't good enough for you. Like we said, you jumped in, took the bull by the horns and said, no, I'm going to order 10 units and get ungated for this thing, man. Looks great. And it's paid off for you. You said 8 out of 10 times, which is
Yeah.
great to hear, which is just more evidence to me that Amazon loves new sellers. They really do pave the way. If you pay attention to the details and don't break the rules as you're going, they really do pave the way for you to ramp up as fast as you want. So well done,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
Well, keep the story going. So you're ordering 10 units at a time. How many ASINs would you say you've tested at this point?
Probably close to 30, 40-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 or 4 really good ones I'm still testing right now. So first I was going really deep. Obviously you learn as you go. So I was like, well, this one looks good. It's selling. I'll definitely be able to sell it. So I'll order like 10. And then some stuff I ordered a month and a half ago, I haven't even sold one of. So I just dropped the price and I got all my money back.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, now I know I'm already ungated in it. So I'm only going to test like 3 or 4. If it sells good, I'll order a little bit more. And a big thing for me was just the Pareto's principle. So the 80-20 rule.
Yep.
I tried a little bit of RA, but I would find myself going to stores, spending like 2 hours there, like an hour or two, and I wouldn't be able to find one thing. And I was just like, well, oh wait, I'm able to find like 3, maybe 4 ASINs in 2 hours. So I was like, let me just focus on what I'm good at. So I just kept on doing that over and over again. And
Good
it's just
stuff.
like, it's just proof of concept. So I'm doing what I'm doing. It's just like a thing you scale over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love getting students on the podcast who are new to the game and getting momentum quickly. We got plenty of episodes with people. I mean, I had a guy episode coming out here in a couple of days, did 40 million in wholesale and stuff he's learned,
Wow.
lessons he's learned, right? Like we've got those stories. And we've also, but the stories that really resonate with people in our community, especially the ones who are kind of struggling and trying to figure out if they want to do this, are stories like yours. You know, a guy that started a couple months ago, he's already had a couple of $1,000 days because he knows how to read a keep a chart the way we teach. And you're sourcing using the simplest of strategies. There's some incredible advanced fun strategies, but you're just basically looking what other sellers are selling and then saying, hey, can I source this and have a reasonable shot at selling these things at a decent profit? Yep. And you're finding them. And you're so, you know, it's not a complicated business, is it?
No.
Where do you see it going, man? What's your goals? And you strike me as a goal guy.
Yeah, definitely. I do have goals. So my goal is to, well, first, obviously, I want to scale it to 10K a month, which I think I might be cracking this month. I'm at 7,500 in sales so far. I still have a week left.
You're going to hit that, dude. And this is August, which is one of the slower months. We get into Q4, last 3 months of the year. You're going to have you will have a $25,000 month, assuming you keep putting the money in and the time.
Yeah.
Easily, maybe if not a 30,000 before the year end month. I believe the trajectory you're on.
That's my first goal, is to crack 10K.
It's coming.
After that, I want to scale this to where I do want to automate it a little bit, because I have a semi-truck parking business over by the airport. It's 10 miles south on exit 59.
I got you.
So it's self-sufficient. So that handles itself. But it still takes up some of my time. And then my sales job, that takes up most of my time throughout the day. So I want to put this to where I have a VA, I have one buying products, I have one sourcing, I have a prep center. And then obviously I can just keep on pumping money into it, and it keeps on pumping money out and just reinvesting all of it. So I don't really plan on taking anything out of this until maybe like a year or two from now. But I just want to scale it to where, you know, I can make 3, 4, 5 grand a month in profit, just keep on putting it back and seeing how big I can scale it.
You're building an asset, dude. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you played around with the system yet? Have you heard that podcast episode? Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I use it every day.
You're using it?
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just corresponding, texting back and forth with Kang this morning. That thing's going to change a lot of lives. So give me your impression. You know, we've got a lot of different people who are kind of going through the beta of that. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, go to silentjimdotcom/the system. And we describe it. Basically, it's a complete workflow software processing for replens, the model we teach. Helps you manage the entire thing with new features being added constantly. And it's going to be super inexpensive, replace a whole bunch of tools on the market. But for our new coaching students, we're strongly encouraging them to go ahead and just ramp up using it, which it sounds like you are doing. So yeah, what's your impression so far? You don't really have a point of context. You've never had to Frankenstein together a bunch of spreadsheets and a bunch of tools from different vendors to do this.
Maybe for like 2 or 3 weeks I did. But
Yeah, well,
after,
okay, good. So you do
yeah,
have a bit of a perspective on
yeah,
the difference between, Frankensteining through and running a smooth system.
yeah. So I used Google Sheets to track all my stuff before.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the QSB replens sheet that comes with onboarding. And I use that, which is pretty good. It keeps stuff organized, but it doesn't update anything. And so
Right.
that's a good feature of the system that I liked, is that as many ASINs as you want, you can track it on there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an update keep a feature on there. So if you just click if you update it, it'll show you all the updated prices. If you still have the same purchase price, it'll show you what percent ROI you're getting now. So if you have a really good ASIN that's selling a lot, and you're making 30-40% ROI on it, but if you need to re-up your inventory in a month, but you see that, oh, there's 20 more sellers and the price tanked, well, you probably don't want to put a big order on that. You probably want to see what your margins are first. But if you have a Google Sheets document, you need to go in and do all that manually, but
One at
the
a time.
system, it just tells you
Yep.
exactly what it is
Yep.
for all of them.
Yeah. So you're using that feature that helping you
Yeah,
know what to buy and keeping track with Keepa thinks of your ASINs at any given time. Yeah. You add into your catalog. The first time have you had an IP complaint yet?
I haven't.
Okay.
No.
So the first time you do, they're going to say, hey, we need all the receipts for this ASIN. If it's assuming you're, using the system the way it's designed,
Yeah,
uploading your receipts, tracking them, you just click a button like, hey, I need all the receipts for this ASIN. Boom, here they are, PDF file.
yeah. You can
Phenomenal
track all the
feature.
order numbers, and yeah, you can track all the order numbers. And something that I've started doing, I don't know how good of a strategy this is. Maybe you can tell me.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of lead lists online, and obviously lead lists, when they upload a product, the sellers blow up and the price tanks. But what I've started doing is, if I look at the lead list, I see if it's a good ACE and if it's profitable, I'll just put it on the system.
Mm-hmm.
And a feature on the system is you can put a filter and you can say, hey, show me only the ASINs where the amount of sellers has decreased from what it was 30 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just putting a bunch of ASINs on from lead lists, and I'm just going to wait for them to drop off, and the system will just automatically tell me, well, there was 30 sellers on this 2 months ago. Now there's only 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I'll go after, instead of just trying to keep on looking at it.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Yep. That's the beauty. That's what Kang, the guy that developed the software, I call him a genius. He doesn't like being called that, but he is. He's a development genius. I mean, he built the software tool that ran a 9-figure business before he decided he wanted to be home with his family. Mm-hmm. So he came into this community, built a beautiful business, and said, I don't like using all these software tools. He built this to replace all of them, uses software brain, and he runs a $3 million business hands-free. Couple guys in his warehouse, couple virtual assistants, plus the software. Like that's his, that's what he built with this. And he's doing things like what you just described, keeping track of indicators, one of which can be, hey, if the seller count's dropping, it's time to take another look. And you can easily do it. You don't have to go back through your catalog manually to do these things. You can, because it's fully integrated with Keepa right into the software. So you can automate. And that is, yes, I would say that is a good indicator to look at. Although a lot of times I get excited when I see the seller count going up, because if it's moving fast enough, that means there's, with Amazon having hundreds of warehouses, a lot of them are underserved a lot of ASINs are underserved in the shelf space in those warehouses. So you can sell a few units at a time on those ASINs typically, because there's just not enough inventory to go around. Like the indicator I look for on those is Amazon's even having trouble keeping up with it themselves. Amazon's running out of stock. They'll have some run out, That's a Keepa feature that you can sort. It's actually a field they added at my request a few months ago. OOS, out of stock.
I saw that post. Yeah.
Dude, that's a beautiful metric to say, hey, has Amazon ran out of stock more than a handful of times in the past month or so? Yep. Okay. That's nascent to look at. Even if the seller count's ramping up, price high, and you're going to get a good handful of sales on those ASINs typically.
Because that's
hard to stock.
Something that I considered whenever I was buying crayons is the crayons had a ridiculous amount of sellers on there, because obviously it's back to school. But I was like, well, this is selling at least 20,000 times a month. And I was like, Amazon has warehouses all over. So what I did is I was like, well, the Keepa chart is showing that it's selling at this number. Most of these sellers are FBM. If I'm FBA, I can get a quicker delivery time, which means I could probably price my products higher. So Target had a back to school sale of one box was 50 cents. So I was selling 4 packs. My buy cost was like $2.50 with tax, and I was selling them for $14. So I had a 230% ROI
Yep.
on each box.
And as fast as you could get your family into your office and packing it up.
Yeah. It was running close. I was like, hey guys, I don't know how long Amazon is going to take to check this stuff in. But if I had to do all that by myself, it would have taken me a couple of weeks. But we got it done in 6 hours in one day.
A couple pizzas, put on the movie, have some fun, man. Like that's and something I love about this business is it creates those moments for family. It's like, oh,
it was fun.
All hands on deck. Let's do it, man. Get the kids involved even, and you have them slapping stickers or whatever on it. It becomes like a family fun night, but you're actually serving others and you're building a business. And how fun is that? But let's go back to what you were just talking about, that particular ACE and sellers all over. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, there's a lot of sellers. There's no opportunity there. No, you've got to remember, and I try to drive this point home often, and I loved your example. You had $1,000 day selling crayons, man, on a very hot ASIN with a whole bunch of sellers priced way lower than you. You had a very profitable run because it was a hot ASIN that's underserved. And I know you know this now, Amar. You picked it up instantly. Some sellers, I have to drag them into realizing Amazon is not one central warehouse where everybody goes to price sensitively shop. It's not. It's hundreds of warehouses. And the vast majority of shoppers, I'm sorry to think it's more than half of the shoppers, aren't price sensitive. Now, they're not going to pay $50 when $10 is an option, but they'll pay a lot more than $10 on a $10 ASIN if they can get it fast instead of waiting 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, if it's sitting in a warehouse near them, they can get it in a couple hours. So the FBA sellers don't just have a little bit of an advantage on an underserved ASIN where there's not enough sitting in the shelf space and Amazon's hundreds of warehouses. You have a massive advantage. So you're selling, you said what, $14 for these box of crayons?
$14.30.
How many sellers were selling them for cheaper than you were on that ASIN?
I think I was the highest priced one on there. So everybody else was selling for $5.
How many sellers?
I think like 180, 200. Maybe it was like 220-ish. I don't remember the exact, but it was around 200.
Okay. You've just handed me one of the more extreme examples. You've handed me a unicorn example. I'm going to use it a lot. So over 200 sellers.
Yeah.
Here you are, the highest priced seller on the ASIN. And all the teaching out there, this is what kills me. We're the only ones talking about this, man. I don't see it anywhere. Now it's going to catch on and everyone's going to claim they came up with the idea. We've been talking about this for 3 years.
Right.
On the fast moving ASINs, you can go in at a super high price as an FBA seller and you will get consistent sales because people want speed. So instead of paying $5 or $6 or $7 and waiting 2 or 3 days, people are saying, okay, I can have it in 2 hours. Yeah. School starts tomorrow, dude. I need it today. You're the only option for people who lived in near the warehouses where your product landed, right? And you didn't control where your product landed. Amazon did that for you. You don't have to pick like, oh, I want some to go to Atlanta, LA. No, Amazon knows where it's needed and they sent it there. And as soon as it landed, it's flying out the door for people who want 4-hour delivery on all their school supplies. And you're the only guy that has, of 200 sellers, you're the only option. So people paid for it. And I hope people go back. I would just want to encourage, if you didn't follow what I just said as a listener to this show, rewind 5 minutes, listen to it again until it makes sense. Amazon is hundreds of warehouses with underserved shelf space on not just crayons, millions of ASINs, millions of the most popular items. And it's so easy to source and find these things. You went to Target, man. You didn't find a wholesaler. You went to Target and cleared the shelf.
It was funny. When I went to Target, I was like, well, there was only a certain amount of crayons in the aisle. And I was like, well, I need some help. I was like, hey, I need some help. And he was like, what can I help you with? I was like, I need 2,400 boxes of crayons. And he looked at me. He was like, oh, okay, let me go to the back and see if we have that.
Any boxes?
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, we have that. And then he came back with a cart and everybody in the store is looking at me and they're like, why does this guy have so many crayons? And he was like, is there any like there any reason why you need this many crayons? I was like, yeah, I have a lot of kids.
That's what you said. That's
Yeah, I was
great.
like, I just have a lot of kids, and then
We
I'm
always
strolling
have a lot of
around.
fun with those questions of like,
Uh-huh.
what do you need all this for? And then there's some pretty embarrassing carts that you can get doing this
Yeah.
resale, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
so it's always fun with that. But, over the years, I've come to, once we all calm down and have our fun with, the silly answers, it's like, just tell them exactly what you do. And that'll actually a lot of times get you,
Hmm.
oh, okay, cool. Yeah. If you ever want me to look at some inventory you're trying to clear out, need to clear a shelf, that time of year or whatever. But what's interesting is Target is typically not real reseller friendly
Hmm.
by policy. So a lot of people are like, oh, never buy more than a few units at Target because the managers don't like it. You walked out of Target with 2,400 boxes of crayons and they went in the back
And
and
it's,
helped you.
yeah.
Right. So, like, there's opportunity everywhere with this
Yeah.
business.
Hmm.
Absolutely everywhere.
Yeah. And now I know exactly what to do for next year. Like this year, I bought 2,500. Next year, I'll probably buy a lot more, and I'll probably send them in a lot quicker too. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm
Well,
learning for next year too.
but that's just one little sample size. And I love
Yeah.
how openly you've talked about your specific ACE. And there's gonna be a lot of people
Yeah.
going to hear this, and a lot of people probably price high on crayons next year. But that's
Hmm.
not the point. The
Yeah.
point is when you find fast moving ASINs, which right now any of us could use Keepa and go find a few million of them.
Hmm.
And then you say, all right, are there enough FBA sellers with enough inventory to fully stock all of Amazon's warehouses? If the answer is no, send in some high priced inventory and watch what happens.
Hmm.
Because all the other training out there, Amar, and I can't emphasize this enough, there's got to be 10,000 YouTube videos that talk about how to win the buy box. Like, oh no, there's too many sellers. Run away. Like, no, stop, time out. You're not looking through the right lens. You're not keeping in mind the size of Amazon, the sheer volume, the number of
Yeah.
warehouses that are sitting empty. FBM sellers, the merchant fillers, fulfilled sellers who are shipping it from their own garage, the fastest they can get it even across the street is 2 to 3 days. But if it's sitting in Amazon's warehouse, now we're talking 2 to 4 hours, and you've got a huge pricing advantage, and you took full advantage of that. Well done, man. I
Yeah.
love it. You're on a great track. You're going to kill this business. You're just going to tear it up, man.
Thank you.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
what else is on your mind? I want to learn some more stuff from you, buddy. What else you got, if anything? I mean, you've only been in this a few weeks, and here you are killing it. But fill me in.
But yeah, I only have a little bit of knowledge compared to a lot of other people in
Well,
this
that's all you
industry.
need, man.
Yeah. I
Taking
think,
action.
yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to say is just taking action
Mm-hmm.
is super important because I think what a lot of people do is they get stuck in analysis paralysis. So they're just like, or they'll just look at it, everything in like a skeptical or like a negative way. But like, what if it doesn't work? Or what if
Yeah.
what if it'll kill people? Like I know a couple of people where it could be other things other than Amazon too, right? But they'll look at everything and they'll just be super skeptical. But if you never shoot, you never know if you're going to make it.
Yeah.
So just, I forgot who told me, but if the numbers line up, if everything makes sense, just grab the opportunity. Because if you don't, someone else will grab it before you.
Yeah.
So action taking is something that that has 100% helped me succeed and get to the point where I am here, and not even just here, a lot of other places, but it's just action taking. So
Yeah.
don't wait for things to come to you. You need to go and get to the things.
It's starting to occur to me why, after working with a lot of people, there's a lot of companies out there. If I'm running a company and I'm hiring people, why they go hire young people because they say and believe and act in congruency. That's the definition of an integrity, right? Is believing and saying and thinking and acting in the same direction, and you can have your integrity, but what happens over time is you meet the wrong people, you make a few bad calls, you make a little compromise on it, you start breaking bad, you make little compromises here and there, and suddenly you become this skeptical, like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm going to have to think about this for 3.5 years
Yeah.
before I've heard this kind of story before. You guys are multi-level marketing, aren't you?" Right? Like, it's like, oh my goodness, you got to cut through all these layers of skepticism before you can even do anything. And suddenly you're just left in a state of inaction,
Yeah.
where really, what we've done and what we've worked really, really hard on, you've heard us say this, Amar, is, I mean, we've seriously scoured the opportunities on the internet. We've looked at thousands of different business models, And we've said, here's the one with the lowest risk, lowest commitment required from the student as far as financial, lowest learning curve needed to get into it with the highest odds of success. And you said, okay, cool. This is a guy that Josh trusts. He said to go talk to him and do what he tells me to do. So I'm going to go and get some coaching and do what he tells me to do. And boom, off you go, man. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it works.
You didn't have the disadvantage of having to cut through, like, I'm going to have to check you guys out and 15 other companies for the next 9 months before I decide what I want. It's like, oh, you're never going to get anything done, man. You just went and did it. So congrats, man.
Yeah.
God bless you, dude.
Part, that's what I was going to say. A big part of it too is my faith helps me a lot. Even like my mom and our whole family, we love God so much, and we try our best to walk according to the word every single day. Yep. And even this whole business, I pray over my inventory every single time I send it in, and I'm just like, God, let your will be done in my business. This isn't mine. I'm just a steward of what you've given me.
That's good.
That's right. You know, whenever I'm working, I don't do any of it on my own, because God says in the word that things that aren't possible with man, they're possible with God. And so I believe that, and I put God first in my business and in my daily life. And I attribute 100% of my success to that. None of this is possible on my own. That's
right. That's right. He directs our steps and orders our days, and, the divine appointments, the conversations, these things aren't random. And I've been doing this 22 years, Amar, and it blows me away. When I'm walking with God, the divine appointments, the conversations, the things that just are statistically impossible to come into alignment, just kind of fall in your lap.
It's crazy.
It's like, well, thanks, God. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. And before I reached out to you guys, I was a little bit confused on what I needed to do, because I had all this free time and I was just like, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. I was considering buying a rental property, like an investment for real estate. Right. And I was just like, I prayed and I was like, God, I have all these different directions that I could go, and I feel a little bit confused. Just give me some direction on what I should do. And out of nowhere, I'm just like, well, let me text Josh and ask. And then I think like within the next week, I heard about your guys' community, and I had that sense of direction. I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. Yeah. And I just prayed about it, and God gave me the direction, and I just walked according to what he told me.
Yeah, that's right. And then we met in person. It was when Vivek Ramaswamy was in town, right? Which I got a cool selfie with Vivek, man. Yeah. That dude's pretty rocking. But so that's where we met in person. Was there and had a short conversation. And I remember you saying, like, yeah, I'm going to do this, man. And I was like, all right. I just think this guy might. And you did, dude. Yeah. That was just a couple months ago. And here you are. Well done. Well, is there anything else on your mind? Any questions for me, or any observations, or, the primary purpose of this podcast is to inspire and encourage and equip others to do the stuff that we teach around here, because they see people putting it into action and it works. Like, with those thoughts in mind, anything else? I mean, I think we've got a great episode if we stopped it right here, but didn't want to cut you off if you had anything else you kind of want to dive into.
I don't have any other questions. I think my main message to other people that may be considering jumping into Amazon or trying it is just look at it. If it's something that you can do, if you have a little bit of time left over, if you have a decent enough attention span and you have the resources, just jump right into it. If you take action, the results will pay off.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And the pool's getting better. The opportunity's getting bigger. Sometimes people say, oh, I've heard that's saturated. And they would have looked at that ASIN that you sold. Would you say 2,400 units or whatever?
Yeah.
They would have looked at that and go, oh, there's no opportunity there. Look at all these sellers selling it for $5 and I got to pay $4 at Target. There's nothing here. Yeah. And they would have looked at you selling it for $15 or 14 and change and thought, that guy's nuts. He's never going to make any sales. But that's because they don't understand how the system works. Once you understand the system, you put those new glasses on and you see the landscape of what's actually happening. There's opportunity everywhere, and it's growing faster than we can sit here and fathom. Have you heard how many ASINs Amazon has in the US?
Over 1 billion something.
1.3 billion. Right? Yeah. Take us 34 years to count them or something like that, one at a time, one per second. And it's growing faster than any of us can calculate and factor in. Like, it's exploding. It's half of all retail activity online is Amazon. This thing hasn't even started to go yet.
That's a concern I had too, is I thought one of the first things I asked Josh was like, well, I want to learn how to sell on Amazon, but isn't it saturated? And he was like, no, it's not. It's not saturated.
Not even close, man.
Yeah. And
I
then
was
I
just
saw what
talking.
you said. You were like, it's every single online transaction. What percent of it is, what's the percentages?
Almost half of all. Yeah, let me just break it down from the top. All right. So in the US, I'd love to ask you this, Amar, see what your instinct is. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, I always like to have people guess. If we put all of retail in the United States on a pie chart, what chunk of that pie is online? All retail, what chunk is online? Have you heard me talk
Uh,
about that before?
I've heard you talk about it, but if it was before you asked me, I would probably assume that it's a good amount because I don't, if I ever want to buy something, it's always online.
Yeah, most people
I barely ever
most
go out.
people guess north of 50%. I
Yeah.
had someone guess 75% today.
Hmm.
No, it's 20%,
Yeah.
right? It's approaching 20. I don't know if we're quite there yet. This is US government data. You can Google it right now and see it yourself. Okay, so 20% of all retail is online. Amazon is half of that, making Amazon about 10% of all retail in the United States right now. But those numbers are climbing so fast and expanding so rapidly. In your lifetime, e-commerce is going to easily be 50% of retail,
Hmm.
according to projections. That's hundreds of billions a year new spending. The game hasn't even started yet, is the point. And people walk around going, yeah, I saw something at Walmart and it was cheaper or it was more expensive than Amazon. Like, I don't even know how anybody makes it. It's saturated. Like, you do not understand how the world is changing. The warehouses that are everywhere, people that want something on their porch 2 hours from now, they don't want to have to drive to Walmart. And there's only one warehouse near them. And it
There's
doesn't
so
have,
much opportunity.
it's so vast once you understand the landscape. So
Hmm.
when someone says it's saturated, to me, it means they haven't dug more than an inch deep into researching this opportunity. They heard of
Right.
one person who quit because the product they loved stopped selling well and they think it doesn't work anymore. But they're ignoring the, it's like they can't see the forest for the tree that they just bumped into with their nose. Right? Like, this thing is bigger than we can possibly imagine. It's the greatest paradigm shift in business history, easily. This
Yeah.
move from traditional retail to e-commerce that's just started. So I sometimes I feel like maybe I'm using too big of terminology and phraseology, but hearing stories like yours just gives me a renewed sense of confidence that there's no possible way to overstate the shift that's happening that has only started
Yeah.
towards these
Yeah.
things.
And you already hear like a lot of stores going out of business because of
Mm-hmm.
online sales, making people not go to their stores. And it's just started and stores are already shutting down.
Yeah, but the game's just beginning.
Yeah, it's just started. A lot of
Malls in some
opportunity.
places are making a comeback, and Walmart has a bunch of money to fight. And they plan on fighting for good long time. You can source if you had to source just from Walmart to sell on Amazon, you could have a multi-million-dollar business
Hmm.
once you see the opportunity through the proper lens. And I
Yeah.
know you believe that now. Maybe 3 months ago, you might not have believed that. Like, really? Like, I'm going to buy something for $4 at Walmart and sell it for 15 to make a profit?
I always thought everything was cheaper on Amazon. Whenever
Right.
I go to the store, I'd be like, oh, well, how much is it on Amazon? And most
Mhm.
of the time I'd find it for like around the same
A lot
price
of
or
people
cheaper
scan
before.
barcodes and they think, oh, yeah, about the same price, man. There's no
Yeah.
opportunity here. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't have the right glasses on yet. You're
Yeah.
not seeing. You got to imagine. I think the one thing that helps people drive it home is you've got to imagine Amazon as hundreds of warehouses where people go to get things fast, and the
Yeah.
only warehouse they can use is the one closest to
The
them.
one closest. Yeah.
Right. And then once you start to think about it through that lens, you have this aha moment. Okay, I'm not looking for profitable products. I'm looking for underserved shelf space at Amazon's hundreds of warehouses. If I can just get people to have that sentence make sense in their brain, suddenly it's like, whoa, wait a second. I'm not fishing in a 5 gallon bucket. I'm fishing in an ocean.
Notion. Yeah.
Yep.
There's so many ASINs that, like you said, 1.3 billion, it would take you forever to get through them. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity. And that's what, whenever I was listening to your audiobook and I heard you say that, I was like, oh my goodness, people who say that this is saturated are crazy. But they don't even, like you said, they don't even look deep enough. They'll just hear one thing and make
Yeah.
assumptions.
They're wearing a blindfold and saying the lights are
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can understand why you would say that,
Yeah.
but can we just like take this off for a second and take a peek through a slightly different perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, we've pounded the point home, and hopefully it's going to encourage some folks and get them rocking in the right direction. But Amar, it's truly a pleasure. And I got to say this too, man. I say this from time to time when I have guests on the show. You are on a leadership track, right? And I hope you realize and recognize that. I'm sure you probably already do because you're very confident, well spoken. You know what God's called you to. You're tackling life with excellence. Life is going to take you out at the knees at some point. It does everybody. If it hasn't happened yet, it's coming. Prepare. Surround yourself with the right people. Something crazy will happen. It does for everyone. But if you've got that network of people and you've got your walk with the Lord, you've got your business determination, man, I can't wait to see where you are in a year, 2, 3, 5 from now. Just can't wait, man. And it's going to involve you in front of more people. It's going to involve you telling your story. It's going to involve you sharing with people who are coming up behind you and mentoring them forward, right? We should always be mentoring others and being mentored by others. That's a life
Plus
that's well
plus
balanced,
minus
right?
equals.
Yep. Right. So
Yeah.
you get it. It's the biblical model. You know, you're
Yeah.
bringing someone along and you're being pulled up by someone else. And I just can't wait to see how your story plays out, man. Congratulations, dude.
Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, I think we can wrap this one up, man. It's for us. We're recording this on a Friday. It's time for me to take it easy. I had a long, crazy week and a long, crazy day, but this is a good way to end it, brother. And it's been a real pleasure hanging out with you, man.
Yeah. You too. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. Well, to the business building warriors who listened in today, and I know what you're thinking. Wow, that was pretty cool. I agree. But here's the good news. We've got hundreds of episodes like this, not just a couple, 2 or 3, hundreds of episodes. We're at episode 900 plus, 950 something. And most of our episodes are interviews with students who have come through either our coaching program or the Proven Amazon course. And you can hear their stories, their struggles, what's working, what isn't at all different levels. Everyone like guys like Amar, who we heard from today, who just started a couple months ago, up to people who've been doing this for years and have robust businesses and can teach us higher level lessons. So if you want to hear those, just scroll back in time. Silentjimdotcom is the only link you'll need. Go check it out. If you're ready to get started, to be real specific, get to the Proven Amazon course. There's a link at silentjim.com to that, or you can get into our coaching program as well. Have a chat with us about that. Book a call on our calendar. Go to silentjim.com/book a call. Schedule a call with us. Let's have a chat about your business. Completely free. We've been doing e-commerce coaching, like Amar mentioned earlier. Talk to Nathan. That's my coaching director. He's been with me for 22 years. We've been doing it the right way longer than anyone in e-commerce. We'd love to have a chat with you and help you get a good game plan put together. But on behalf of the team that does these episodes, God bless you, business building warriors. Thanks again, Amar. You did great, buddy.
Thank you.
And everyone else, we'll have another great episode for you real soon. Thanks for hanging out with us today.